to introduce to you the gift range chart, which professional fundraisers use to as a tool to strategize or make strategies for fundraising. So this is now we're now going to talk about the more technical side of fundraising, because fundraising is an art, it's also a science, and there's a science to it. So why do hit and miss when you can learn the science of fundraising? And we will do that by studying the annual fund. What is the annual fund? You all have income requirement for your organization to run, right? So how do you raise your annual budget or your annual fund? Where do you derive, where do you get the source of your annual fund? So this is a basic and the building block of all fundraising, because that's the first thing that you need to support your annual fund or your general fund. The annual fund campaign is also, or the annual fund program is also the vehicle that nonprofits use to seek gifts from income to meet your nonprofit income needs. So you have an income need, you have a budget income that you need to raise, and the annual fund should be the vehicle that you will use in order to find that source of income or gifts. Remember, we talked about individuals giving the most contribution to nonprofits, and also individual giving is the least developed but has a large potential. So I am really partial for the annual fund and seeking gifts from individuals as well as groups. So the annual fund serves as a building block for obtaining a base of donor or supporter. And this can help you in making the people around you aware of your organization. You can involve people. Why? Because when you do an annual fund, you're doing a lot of activities. You're going to do special events, you're going to produce brochures, you're going to have a fundraising brochure to invite people. So I like to have an annual fund campaign. I like to teach nonprofit organizations to start an annual fund campaign, because you have a tool, an instrument to use when you approach people or a prospective donor, instead of just grappling for things to say, how to invite them to support your organization. You can tell them, we have an annual fund campaign. We're raising 10 million pesos this year, and would you like to be part of the annual fund campaign? Would you like to contribute to our annual fund campaign? And normally, pwede sa church, you can have a theme for each year. You can have a launch, and we're going to look at that later. So that's the annual fund. That's why we call it as an instrument that will compel your organization to be accountable. Because once you start inviting people to join you through their contribution, through their involvement, then you are constrained to put some structures in place for accountability, for reporting, so that people know that everything you do is above board. That's why I like the annual fund campaign. It's another word for it is a cornerstone for for all aspects of resource development. And we saw earlier that individuals give the main bulk of money to nonprofit organizations. And what's beautiful about individual giving is that it is unrestricted. They just give to the operational expenses. They will not specify for you to put it in a particular project. So, and when you do an annual fund campaign, they know that it will be for your operation. It is the money you need to support your programs, your current programs. That's the annual fund. And before we go to the arithmetic of fundraising, let me just say that when you do an annual fund campaign and you do it each year, people expect it. People expect you to have a yearly campaign. They expect you to go to them to tell you what your current year's annual campaign is. Now, the concept of the annual fund campaign came from magazine subscription. In a magazine subscription, usually it's 1 year, right? Now that's not very popular because we have the internet and not very many people now subscribe to magazine. But in the olden times, when we used to subscribe to Time Magazine, Newsweek Magazine, before your 1 year subscription expires, they send you a notice. Your subscription is about to expire. Here is your renewal slip. So you renew. So that is where the concept of the annual fund campaign started. For people to be approached each year so that they will renew their pledge, their commitment, their contribution to your organization for the following year. And that's how you also get regular givers to your organization. So when you plan the annual fund campaign, the tool that we use, for professionals, is the arithmetic of fundraising. What is the arithmetic of fundraising? Let's see. The arithmetic of fundraising concept in planning the annual fund says that it will direct you, the fundraiser, the fundraising practitioner, to determine the quality and the number of gifts that you need to achieve your goal. For example, your annual fund goal is the amount of money you need to raise for that year to support your annual budget or your annual fund. Now, the arithmetic of fundraising will guide you to how many gifts and what quality of gifts do you need in order to achieve the amount of money that you need to raise, or the goal. We will call it the goal. So before you plan any strategies, because sometimes we start fundraising by sitting down and listing down all the activities that we want to do. We'll do a fundraising banquet, we'll do a fundraising letter, we will do a bazaar, but professionals don't do it that way. How do they do it? They use the arithmetic of fundraising. They ask these questions. What quality gifts are required? And how many are needed in each category? By quality gifts, it means that you're going to come up with a matrix of the category of gifts. How much will be from major gifts? How much will be from core donors? How much will be from mass marketing? Okay? What should be the ratio of prospects to donors? So let's say you have that matrix of, remember the fundraising ratio, the 10, 20, 70 ratio. 70% of the people will give large number of people will give smaller amounts. 20% will give regular giving amount, or 20% of your goal. And 10% of the people will give the large amount of money that you need, maybe 70 to 80% of the goal. And by goal, we mean the amount of money you need to raise for the year, the fundraising goal, or the budget, the annual fund that you need. Now, how many prospects do you need for each category? And then, does the donor base have the number of prospects? So there are some work that we need to do in order to come up with that table. Now, another question to ask is it realistic to expect that these prospects can be identified? So you have names of people for each of the categories, and then you will have to determine the quality or the amount of gift that they are capable of giving. So let's proceed. So far, so good. The arithmetic of fundraising, or the arithmetic of the annual fund, means that large amount of money to be raised will come from a small number of contributors who are encouraged to give the larger gifts. Remember the pyramid, the Pareto principle? So that, now this is very important for the arithmetic, no? On the left side is the percentage of gifts. On the right side is the percentage of money to be raised. Now, 10% of the gifts have the potential to raise 60% of the goal. No? 10% of the gifts have the potential to produce 60% of the goal, the fundraising goal. 20% will come from 15 to 25% of the money that will be raised, and then the remainder required will be 70% of the gifts. Again, to make this functional, 3 to 5% contributors in the donor database will have the ability to make a major gift. And this is a proven, tested concept that 10% of the gifts have the potential to provide 60% of the funds received through the gifts. So we're looking at major people. Remember, if you have 100 names in your donor database, the 10% or 10 people are capable of giving 60% of the amount you need to raise. And of that 10%, 3 to 5% will give what we call the top gift or the leadership gift. Now, to make this principle work, the top 2 gifts should be sought in the annual fund must each equal 5% of the goal. So when we say top gift, when you make the table or the matrix, the top people who will give, the top 2 people who will give, each of their gifts must each equal to 5% of the goal. So that if you have 2 people giving 5% each, that's already 10% of the amount that you need to raise. So let's look at what you need to do. Okay, this is how your table or your gift range chart would look like. Okay, let's say your goal is 100,000. You're a small starting nonprofit organization and your goal is only 100,000 pesos. On the first column is the range of gifts. This is what we call the quality of gifts, no? Your top gift is only 5,000 pesos. No? The next gift is 2,005, 1,500, and then you have a lot of smaller gifts. On the second column is the number of gifts. How many of the 5,000 gift do you need? You only need 2. 2 people giving 5,000 each. So that if you total that, that's 10,000. That's 10% of the 100,000. Okay? Now, how many prospects do you need in order to get 2 people giving 5,000 each? You need 8 prospects. And then, so on down the line. The next quality gift is 2,500. You only need 2 people giving 2,005 each for a total of 5,000. And you will get 10,000. So, for the first 2 gift categories, that's already 20% of what you need to raise, correct? 20%. Now, you need 16 prospects in order to get the 2 gifts. And so on down the line. So, on the first column is the range of gifts. Second column, you have to list the number of gifts. The next column beside it would be the number of prospects. And then you total that until you come up with the grand total of 100,000. Okay, so you say, but how will we know how many prospects we need? Let's say we need 10 million. How will we compute that? Don't worry, because you can download the gift range chart calculator. If you Google gift range chart calculator, and it will bring you to the site where you can, it will automatically calculate for you all these numbers. All you have to do is to type in or key in the amount, the fundraising goal. Let's say it's 1 million, it's 1 plus 6 zeros. Don't put the comma, don't put the 0.00. If it's 10 million, it's 10 plus 6 zeros. So would you like to try it? Are you there in the gift range chart calculator? So how much are you intending to raise for your annual fund? So that's a guide. That's a free guide that you can use. Now, it may vary depending, you can actually change some of those numbers depending on your donor database. Let's say you don't have one person who can afford to give 35,000. Then you can adjust it to include several people who are capable of giving, let's say, 20,000. So 2 people giving 20,000 is 40,000. Instead of, if you don't have one person capable of giving 35,000. So you have to check your own database, donor database. And that is where you will need to know the history of giving of your donors. You need to know their capacity for giving. So you need to do your work. You need to do your work. Now, if we go to the next slide, this is what you need to do. You have to scrutinize and analyze the gift potential in your donor database. And then ask and seek answers to the hard question, is there enough prospects capable of giving in the levels required? So you really need to know your database. You need to know the people giving to your organization. You need to know how much they are capable of giving and whether you can still challenge them to give higher than what they are comfortable giving. So effective fundraising plays by the rules. You don't want to do hit and miss or guessing game. You don't want a guessing game if you want to be professional about it. Okay, how do you profile your donor database? Because there are certain things that you need to look at before you can make a realistic gift range chart. Profiling the donor database means that you need to find out how many people are giving annually. Because some people like to give one time every year, so they don't want to be bothered writing another check. What is the frequency of their gift? Frequency refers to giving annually, semi-annually, quarterly, monthly. That's the frequency. Now, number 3, what is the date of the recent gift? Now, the reason why you want to know the date of the recent gift is to know whether they are current donors. Because if the date of their most recent gift is a year old, then that's a warning that they may be lapsing as a donor. If they are giving annually and their last gift was already a year old, then it's time for you to start contacting them, to tell them that it's already time to renew their contribution. Also, you need to know the level of their giving. And this is where a good fundraising software can help you, or if you don't have a fundraising software, your regular database, your Access or Excel file can do that for you. In my time, we were doing the 3x5 card. 3x5 card and a box for the 3x5 card. So we were doing it manually. But now, we have the comfort of a tool called Access or Excel, or we can even customize a database for our fundraising donor database. So it will be easy for you to analyze your database, asking these questions if you have a database, a donor software that can do this for you, because it can generate all kinds of reports that you can require from it. And this is useful for profiling your donor database so that you can make the right strategies. And after you have profiled it, then it will be easy for you to put in realistic numbers in your gift range chart. Okay? You also ask what is the pattern of giving by staff, trustees, and non-board related committees, because you want also your, what do you call that, nuclear people to be supporting your annual fund. Because wouldn't it be nice when you go out and invite people, invite the public to join your annual fund campaign, to say that 100% of our staff and our employees support our annual fund. And you can do it through salary deduction, but love begins at home. So we start by engaging the people within our organization to support and contribute to the annual fund. So this is how your gift range profile would look like if you're going to make a table. You have the gift range here, profile the categories of gifts starting from the highest, and depending on the amount of gifts, the range of gifts that you receive in your organization, it will vary. So record the current gift, last year's gift, gift 2 years ago, and 3 years ago. This will give you the giving history of your donors. So the giving profile of each of your donors will include their longevity, which is the number of years of giving. Maybe some people have been giving to your organization for 10 years. So wouldn't it be nice for you to know that some people don't know that they have been giving for 10 years or more, and that means that they've already heavily invested in your organization. So it will tell the frequency, gifts per year, so you know who is giving annually, giving quarterly, and monthly. The recency is the date of the most recent gift, and the amount. The amount would tell the cumulative gift for their lifetime. So it's nice to say, Mr. Santos, you know that you have already given 10 million to ATS. And they will fall out of their chair and say, oh, I've already given 10 million. I'm so heavily invested in you. I should give more. So they have a stake. No, they know that they have invested a lot, and they are stakeholders, big stakeholders in your organization. And it's really nice for them to know that you are keeping track of their giving, and you're keeping a record, good record of their giving. So that's part of your accountability to the donors. Okay, reckless guessing has no place in professional fundraising and planning. Hard questions require hard responses. If the goal is to be justified, it has to come from hard information. So we need to be, we say in the MBA, we need to be data-based. We cannot just make decisions based on things that we pluck out of the air, but it's based on actual data, on actual numbers, actual figures. So the number of prospects required are available, and prospects have the ability or the potential to give at the level of the gift range chart. So that's the arithmetic of fundraising. Now, before you make strategies are the fundraising plans, events, techniques, methods that you're going to use to solicit. Before you do that, you need to make sure that you have the gift range chart so that your strategies will be based on the category. For the top donor, what will be our strategies? Definitely, it will be one-on-one solicitation, one-on-one visit. For the 70%, it will be mass marketing. That's where you will use brochure, social media, and fundraising letters, etc. By the way, we will have a session on the use of social media in fundraising. So I don't know if Kalayaan, who is going to be our presenter, facilitator next session, will touch on digital marketing, but he's the expert when it comes to social media and digital marketing. So in the ladder of effectiveness, the most effective fundraising technique is the personal visit by a team. 2 people, your president and your board member, na high-powered. No? You have the chairman of the board and the president. So this person you're going to visit must be ready by putting at least 6 zeros in his check, because this is a high-profile visit. And then personal visit by one person has proven to be less effective than by a visit by a team. But when you visit a team, 2, I think, is enough. We made a mistake when we were starting fundraising in 1990s. We visited one major donor of ours. He was giving millions to ATS. But because we were new, my president also, of course, is not trained in fundraising. So there were the president, I was the development director, I joined. The academic dean joined us. The president of the alumni joined us. We were at least 5, okay? And each one had a pitch. I had an ask for, I think that was the time we were going to start a resource development office. So I needed equipment for the office, an aircon, computers, furniture, because we were starting a resource development unit. And then my president was going to ask for faculty development. Remember, faculty development, PhD, they cost at least 6 million per person. And then our academic dean was going to ask for faculty development fund. The president was going to ask for a general fund. And we also had the alumni president, the alumni association president. So we were there, and that donor is really a very committed Christian. He had a heart for evangelism. He had a heart for mission. And we all pitch in our own particular agenda and fundraising ask. I think I got something like 200,000. Wow, I was very happy because it was enough to start a fundraising office. Our academic dean and president got in the same vicinity. But you know what? The alumni association president, who didn't have a particular ask, received 2 million. And he was not ready to ask for any project. And we found out later on that this donor wanted to do church planting because his heart was for evangelism. And he thought that as president of alumni, ATS alumni, then he will have a network of ATS alumni who can be church planters. That's why he gave 2 million. And so he was very surprised and he was not ready. He was not ready for that. So the moral of the lesson is you need to learn, you need to make your homework in researching the interest, the heart of the donor so that you ask the right amount. But maybe his case is exceptional, so we all got something, but really the best and most effective is one-on-one or two people doing a visit to one major donor. So, number 3 is solicitation by personal letter with a follow-up telephone call. So, you write a letter, but make sure you follow up with a telephone call. Because number 4 is a solicitation by phone without a follow-up letter. Because these people are busy business people, and they don't have you top of their mind. So you need to remind them, or sometimes you just have to follow up with the gatekeeper. In most cases, it's the executive assistant or the secretary who will do the follow-up. So in my case, I have a supporter whom I ask for support every time I go on a conference to present a paper, and if I need to raise my own airfare and support, I write him a letter, but I follow up with the secretary, and it's the secretary who will usually text me to say that we have already deposited X amount of money for your conference. Now, personal telephone without a follow-up letter is number 6. And number 7, when you write mailing, when you have a mailing list called a house list, that's more effective than a direct mail. A direct mail is where you rent mailing lists from outside. So sometimes you wonder, why am I getting this letter from UNICEF? Where did I get my name? They rented your Citibank roster of cardholders. That's why they were able to get your name and contact. So it's expensive to rent, and the response rate for direct mail is 4%, 0%. So a small response rate, and you have to spend a lot of money. And if you are not World Vision or UNICEF, then I will not really encourage you to do direct mail, and it's actually at the bottom. Unless you are well known, you are visible, then it's okay to rent a list and write fundraising letters through the direct mail. But make use of the house list. Your house list will contain the mailing list that you have gathered throughout the years. This will be your current donors, your lapsed donors, former participants, etc. Now, grantsmanship is number 8. Grantsmanship is writing grant proposal. Phonathons. I don't know if you do phonathons. At Regent University, we would do an alumni phonathon. Alumni phonathon is where we call our alumni each year and tell them, hi, this is from Regent University, and we're doing the annual alumni phonathon. Oh, and then we tell them what goal we are raising for that year, and we ask them, would you like to donate $10, $5, $25, depending on what we need to raise for that year. So that's a phonathon where you get a group of volunteers, and then you dedicate the telephone lines for that particular day, and you provide the volunteers pizza or meal, and it's volunteers, it's free. There's also telethons, which is used by 700 Club, CBN Asia, because they have broadcasting, they're on the air, and every time, I think they used to do telethons twice a year, I don't know now, but during telethons, they open their lines for people to be able to give, but they specify a cost. Like for example, if it's Payatas or Yolanda, depending on what is the relevant cost for that particular time, then people give by calling up the hotline numbers. Special events, it's only number 10. So special events are fun, but it's also very manpower consuming, and human resource wise, there's a lot of man hours that you need if you want to produce a good fundraising events or special events. You need 6 months of preparation, and then you need to borrow money from your general fund in order to finance the special event. And if you're a good fundraiser, you want to make money. You don't want to lose money. You don't want to just break even. But, you know, that's why that's not my favorite. But it has its purpose, which is to create awareness, to create new donors. That's where you get first-time donors to give to your organization when you have fundraising special events. So banquets and other events. Door-to-door, we don't do that here. Media use is expensive, but again, I said, make use of the free public service announcement, which the television, radio can pick up, and then you can get free press releases, and then the direct mail. So that's just some of the examples of fundraising techniques, methods, strategies that you can use. So you will engage each of these when you finish doing the gift range chart and looking at what gift categories are we talking about, what kind of people are you going to approach, and what strategies will be best suited for each of the people in each of the categories. Now what I want you to do for the rest of the time is to show you how to plan an annual fund campaign, and we will have the next 30 minutes to do that. So when you plan the annual fund campaign, like I said, this should be a yearly program, and you should have a goal. How much are you going to raise? Now, if you have a mix of income, like ATS has earned income from tuition, so if our annual budget is 25 million and 30% of that is derived from other incomes such as tuition and others, then we're only talking about raising 17 or 18 million. That's the goal that we will put for the annual fund, because we're only meeting the gap of the annual fund instead of putting the total annual fund. The amount of money we're going to raise for the annual fund will be from gifts and contribution from individuals and groups. And if there are other sources of income, such as earned income, then we deduct that from the total annual or general fund or annual budget that we need. We raise only the difference. So what would be your objective? Your objective would be to, if you are doing this for the first time, your objective is to create awareness, to get new donors, to acquire new names, new donors. No? But if you are World Vision, your goal is to increase giving from 200 million to 300 million. No? So it will depend on the specific organization. Then you have a case for support. You need a case for support because you will need this when you do your marketing collaterals and other strategies. Even for person-to-person solicitation, you still need to state your case for support. And then your goal or target is the amount in pesos that you need to raise for the annual fund. The theme, make a theme. So each year, make it exciting, make it different each year. You have a theme for each year. The duration or time frame, of course, is an annual fund. I don't know what your fiscal year is. For us, for many people, it's calendar year, January to December. But for us, it's the school year. It's from August to June ba? So May, yon. So it will be a 1-year duration, but the calendar would be different depending on your fiscal year. Now, you should assign staff responsible for the annual fund. You should have an annual fund manager. So person who will be in charge, overall in charge of the annual fund. And you will have, of course, you need a database manager. It can be the same database manager that you have. And you need promotions and marketing person to help you with marketing collaterals and with the mass marketing. And then you need an army of volunteers, of course, who will be helping you raise the money. And then you need set the annual fund campaign budget, because for each of the activities that you will use, you need budget, right? So where will you get the budget? You need to borrow from yourselves, borrow from the general fund. So you need to know, usually rule of thumb is it's 10%, 10 to 15% of the target. So if you're raising $1 million, you need about 100,000 to 150,000 to raise the 1 million. So 10-15% of the goal should be your budget. And then make use of the gift range chart, so that the gift range chart will help you in planning the strategies that you will use. That's next, strategies. Your Gantt chart, you're familiar with the Gantt chart? Your Gantt chart will, if it's a 1-year calendar, your Gantt chart will show all the activities that you're going to do for the year. You're going to put the person responsible for that. There should be a deadline, and there should be due dates, yes? So it's important that you put persons responsible and a date due for the Gantt chart. It's like a PERT CPM if you're doing a construction work, because you have maybe several events going on at the same time. So you know which month of the year is really busy, so you can appropriate the activities within the 1 year duration of your annual fund. And then what marketing collaterals are going to use? Now, the marketing collaterals will depend on the strategies that you will use. So if you're only going to do personal solicitation, then all you need perhaps is what? A multimedia presentation that you show to your one-on-one meeting. But if you're going to do everything, like banquets, mass marketing, then you will need brochures and other marketing collaterals, maybe flyers, etc. Monitoring and evaluation. So you need to monitor on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, so that you can keep track of the solicitation process. How are you going to go about raising the goal for the year? Maybe you have a quarterly target, and so on. And who is going to do the gift processing, who's going to do the thank you letter. And in the monitoring and evaluation, you need to include the ROI, the return on investment. It's important because you want to be effective in the use of money. So how much budget did we set aside for the annual fund campaign, and how much money did we generate? And then for each of the strategies, how much did we spend on mass marketing? How much did we spend on the personal solicitation? How much did we spend on special events? And how much did we raise from each of the strategies that we use?